Guys, welcome back to the podcast, and I'm joined in studio by a very much, this is an interview that I've wanted to do with you for some time now,
Oh,
but
really? I don't
I,
know.
yes, no, definitely. Um,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I'm joined in studio with the current Cage Warriors Bantamweight Champion, Liam Gittens. Liam, how are you this evening?
I'm good this evening. Yeah, it's good to come on. I had a bit of trouble getting on, but I'm here now. So yeah, no, I'm excited to be on. Thank you for having me.
How does it feel being the current bantamweight champion at Cage Warriors? And also, looking at your stats, one of the highly ranked fighters in the UK, but not just here in the UK, but also across Europe.
Yeah, yeah. It feels amazing. Like it's something that I wanted for a while. It was mad when I won the belt. I was really happy, and to defend it was really cool as well. Both hard fights, and yeah, I've just been enjoying. Had a bit of downtime as well between fights, so it's been really good. I can't complain. It's amazing.
No, but after your past performance and being the champion, I mean, I would have just I was seeing you getting back into the gym and training hard. But I thought you would have been, celebrating hard as well, because you've the downtime that you've mentioned, you've earned it, clearly, obviously.
Yeah, I just mainly spend it with my family because I got two kids dinner, so I got a girl who's 3 and a boy who's 9 months. So I've just been spending time with them and my missus and stuff. So I'm not one for partying much, so I've just spend time with them, family and stuff. That's what I enjoy to do.
I have heard that in the past, a couple of fights that you've taken that when they've been presented to you, you've said yes, and I think they're mainly on the Cage Warriors promotions platform. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but one question that did stick out in my mind is that, you're taking the fight on short notice, but are you not concerned about protecting your record? I mean, if you're taking the fight on short notice, you know, you, at the same time you want to prepare properly and also protect
yeah.
some wins.
I mean, every fight that I've took on short notice that I've been trained. Like I'm not just not trained and then took a fight. So I think that's the same case for most people. Take them on like a week's notice. I feel the disadvantage with doing that is you don't get to do the camp for that opponent. So usually when I do a camp, I have that opponent in mind and I practice stuff specifically for them. Um, as taking it for short notice, and if you're unfit for it, it's kind of like, well, you've not been training really. So that would have been not as wise, which I'm sure people do as well. But majority of the time, anytime I've done it, I've been fairly fit before going in. So any of the late notice fights, I've either been in camp and opponent pulled out, or I've just been relatively ready to go. So it's just managing the weight at that point.
You've got a really, really good fight record, not just professional fights, but also before that, your amateur fights as
Yeah.
well. But who has been your toughest opponent, your most challenging opponent that you stood in the octagon with facing you?
So in terms of I it's a hard one to answer that because the phrase hard. So I'd say Reese McEwen was my hardest in terms of it was my first 5 round fight as a pro. So it was more the scale, like the time scale of the fight, and just making sure that I didn't do anything wrong. And there was a lot of boxes I had to keep checking every round, like how I was managing my energy, where my hands were, making sure he didn't catch my head kick, making correct decisions. So that fight for me was probably my hardest fight in terms of I had to just not get too involved as well, where I wanted to like come forward, but I had to like back off a little bit. So that was hardest in terms of like how much I had to think and keep on the ball, if you get me. But hardest fight in terms of just sheer getting hit cardio wise was probably B Gerardo Fanny. That fight was really hard. I ended up getting TKO'd in the second there, so that has to be up there with my hardest fights. Like I couldn't sit up after that one. So yeah, they're the two that I'd put up there.
And with the kind of record and achievements you got under your belt and the record that you built up in the past, what sort of was in the mindset you have when you walk into the cage or even in the run up to fight day? I mean, um, what sort of mindset is? I mean, what sort of figure is it that you think of that you feel you're fighting this person or this thing, whatever's happened to you maybe before in the past, any kind of adversity, and it does inspire you immensely, drive you to continue no matter what kind of obstacles you may come across.
Is this in terms of fight day or in
Well, yeah,
in
no, yeah,
general?
in
So
terms of fight, it's sort of
so
mentality you have, yeah.
right, okay. So fight day, I'm usually trying to keep pretty chilled all day, to be honest. If I don't like to get overexcited that you just burn yourself out. So try to keep as chilled as possible, keep it jokey, keep it light, just have fun, really enjoy the experience because you don't really know what's going to happen when you get in there, you know. So just enjoying the whole process. It's fight day, you're not cutting weight anymore, so you enjoy that and everything. Once I start getting my hands wrapped, a little bit nervous. Then once I start, so like you just sat around, aren't you? And you're getting your hands wrapped, and all my hands out, and I start getting like a little bit of a heavy heartbeat, a little bit breathing, probably just a bit of adrenaline and stuff like that. But once I start hitting pads and talking to the coaches, I feel loads better. They're confident. Usually by the time like 20 minutes before I'm going out, I'm really confident, and I know I'm ready to go when I want to go out before they've come to get me as well. Then you've got the walkout. That's just is what it is. My last one I had to wait like I forgot how long it was now because I was supposed to be the end of the prelims. So I was behind the curtain. My opponent was the other side. I could literally see him through the curtains. And then they
Mm.
came and said that it's going to be like an interval before I fight. And then I was the start of the mains. And I was just like, man, you can't keep doing this to me because you feel ready to go, and then you've got to
Yeah.
wind yourself back and then get warm again, and that's a bit of a head mess. But usually in a perfect scenario fight day, a little bit nervous before. Once you start warming up, you get confident, you start thinking about what you're doing to do for the fight, and then by the time you're walking out, mate, you're just ready to take his head off. So um, I generally enjoy the whole process though. It's really good.
Your nickname Nightmare. Although
Yeah.
when someone looks at someone looks at your past fights, it's kind of easy to say see where you got it from because you cut more or less run through virtually every opponent put in front of you. But can you tell me how did you get that nickname?
So one of my old coaches gave me that name. I think he was because he watched Diego Sanchez and was like, "Oh, he's the daydream now, so you should be a nightmare." But as the years have gone on, a lot more people started taking that name, and I've started not to like it as much, to be honest. Been thinking about changing it, but I'm just trying to think what would suit better. But yeah, from an old coach, kept it my whole career, so maybe keep it, maybe change it, probably change it to be honest, but. Any suggestions from anybody would be cool. Whereas Joe, we had a joke in the gym where we were talking about that, and someone was like, "Just call you the washing machine because you just get in there," and they're like, "Whoa, Joe, how old
Mm.
is he?" I thought that was hilarious. That Liam, the washing machine, Gittins. I mean, that's a ring to it, you know.
Um,
We'll see.
that sounds good. I do like it, but Nightmare kind of drives the message home to your opponent of what they're going to be dealing
True,
with in the
true.
cage.
I feel like it's just overused. I don't know. I
Mm.
see a couple of people with that nickname, and it's supposed to be unique, I guess, a nickname, you know. But
The
it's not a bad one. It's not a bad one.
Your team, the gym you're fighting out of, Next Generation Liverpool, there is a lot of names coming out of that team of
Oh
that
yeah.
gym now. Yourself, Liam Gittins, Liam Nightmare Gittins, Molly McCann, Paddy Pimblett, of course, they're known around the world now now competing in the UFC. There's Shamrock BJJ, there's Adam Cullen. I mean, I don't know why that name isn't heard of more throughout the British and maybe to some extent the Irish mixed martial arts scene.
I
Uh,
think a lot of people know who we are. Like as a gym, it's we've got so many good fighters out there. You got Nathan Fletcher as well. You mentioned Luke Riley. You got Connor Wilson. You got a couple lads on the weekend. You got Matt Camilleri. You got Connor. You got Fran. Loads of big names. We've got Leah McCourt on. She's Bellator. Jake McHugh. George Staines. Just loads of different shows. Loads of different people. I think the only ones we don't have someone on is PFL, but then. Bellator and PFL wants a Leah's on that. So I think pretty much ticking all the boxes for every big sort of like MMA organization. If someone doesn't know who the gym is, like, do you know what MMA is? Like in the UK, like it's
yeah,
mad. Yeah.
but I mean, you mentioned some names. I mean, are there any other prospects, any other talents we should be just keeping our eyes peeled for just in the upcoming fights, whether they're amateur or professional?
Yeah, I mean, like Jake McHugh, I said he's an Octagon, really, really high level grappler. You got Connor Wilson, absolutely phenomenal. Like he's so good. Fran, up and coming as well. He's really great. Matt Camilleri, if you're looking at a good wrestler, good high level wrestler, he's there. Cullen, you mentioned him. You know, you
Yeah,
got
yeah.
Liam Malloy as well. Not a lot of people have seen him much because he's been out for a bit, but Liam Malloy, absolutely phenomenal, mate. He's had a few fights on Cage Warriors and he's so good. So it's just like I can't think of a teammate who I'd mention who isn't someone who I'd consider a prospect. Like the gym is just it's really high level. And I know a lot of gyms say that, but actually it's like everybody you go with, it's just good rounds, it's high level stuff. They've got good wins under the belt, they're doing good stuff, you know. So it's hard to say. Do you know what I mean? Everybody
No,
pretty much there.
no,
Yeah.
definitely. And from what I can see, from what I can hear, from what I can feel, I get a sense of in that particular gym, everyone is, it's almost, can I say, family orientated. Everyone there's very
Yeah.
loyal to each other, and that they're very genuine as well.
Yeah, it's hard being out of a gym, and you're spending so much time on a mat. But I did really feel it when I moved to Next Gen. Like, I think there's that like little phase when you first join, and like you sort of like you don't click straight in, do you? So it took a couple months, and then before I knew it, if it was like real family, and it's stayed that way
Mm.
ever since. And I think you need that in a gym, man. You need to be supporting each other and doing camps with each other, making sure you're all helping each other out and. I guess that's one of the reasons why it's one of the best gym, well, the best gym in the UK. I'd consider it as anyway. One of the best in the world, I'd imagine. Is because we're all just helping each other all the time, and everybody's got time. There's not a time that I'd ask them of help and to be like, yeah, see you later. Only probably if I was out of camp and other people, because everybody who's got the fights coming up to take priority, which is the way it should be as well. So, um, you know,
It's the
that's
first one me, sorry, it's the first one me speaking to you. Um, you've accomplished so much in such a short space of time because you're still very young. But can you just give like a brief backstory on yourself and how you came to getting into mixed martial arts?
Oh, right. Okay. So, let me have a think here. So I started martial arts when I was just turning 16. Pretty naughty in school, had a lot of energy. I wasn't like dead bad in school, but I was a bit of like a little shit, you know what I mean? But I started training. But he's actually fighting on the week on Thursday. Marius Miklojewski, if I say his surname properly. But him and one of my other friends were like, "Oh, you should come to the gym and that." And I was like, "Oh, don't know, like, but I wasn't into boxing, not really. And then I went, and then I started doing the Muay Thai, bit of kickboxing, Muay Thai, and then I did the MMA, and I loved the MMA. And I was like, no, this is cool because I used to play fight with my friends, but like if you could actually put gloves on and just beat each other up a bit. So
Mhm.
I got into it pretty much straight away there. Um, I think by the time I was 17, I was pretty much training like Monday to Friday. Then took me like a year to get into the setup, actually being able to train every day and not be too sore for it. Um, and then I didn't actually have any sort of goal to fight. Like I just like being in the gym. I didn't want to be a fighter. I'd get in some fights like just in school and stuff like that, but I didn't want to compete. But that was just like kids being kids sort of deal. But yeah, I remember going and watching my first few fights. It was actually here in Southport. A couple of the people from the gym were fighting, and I loved it. I was like, "This is cool. Like, this is
Mhm.
crazy." So the coach asked me if I wanted to compete at that point. I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a go." Like, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll give it a go. So I started doing a bit of Muay Thai. I had 4 Muay Thai fights. Won an area title at C class, and then got into my MMA from there, and just kept training, kept going, and then I think just after lockdown, I left that gym and joined Next Gen, and then it's just been up and up and up since then, and winning a world title, which is something that I never would have thought when I was 15,
Yeah.
starting the gym, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a cool little ride I've been on. Yeah.
When you've landed on something's good, constructive, productive, you keep pushing through it, they keep building on it. It takes you so many places you never thought or dreams that you'd ever see yourself going.
Yeah, I feel like the main thing is I just generally enjoyed it. Like starting fighting as an amateur, you're not getting paid. Anyone who's an amateur is doing it. Like, well, I'd assume anyone who's doing it is literally doing it because they love it. Like, not a lot of people, I'd assume, would start fighting 0-0 as an amateur, going into first fight thinking, yeah, I'm definitely going to get into UFC. I'm definitely going to win this and that and the other. That you're doing it because you love it, and once you start competing, you just training and you're getting into the lifestyle and you're competing, training, competing, and then before you know it, you're a professional and you've had 7, 8 fights or whatever, and you really like pushing the boundaries. And I feel like there is that maybe between the amateurs and the pros, there is that. I remember having that discussion in my head with myself, and when you're turning over to pro, like I feel you make that decision then to make that, like, if you haven't already, make it a primary focus in your life, then maybe that's the difference between the amateurs and the pros. Like when you do finally decide to turn over pro, you are all in. Like you're doing it because you love it, but now you're all in and you're going for it. Maybe that's the difference there, but started it because I love it. I still do now.
Speaking of amateur, and it's something I've heard of a few times from other fighters and other people involved in the sport. Um, and not to throw shade at anyone, other fighters or other promoters, but were there any times that you found yourself being double crossed by a promoter, you weren't paid appropriately, they didn't look after you correctly?
Um, no, I think I've been really lucky in that aspect. Well, I've only fought in the UK, so maybe that's why. But every promotion that I've been with has treated me really well. Like even my first amateur fight, I say you don't get paid. Actually, I lie. My first amateur fight, they give me 100 quid for no reason. Like I was like, you shouldn't be paying me. I didn't get paid again after that. Like in a
Mm,
purse, it was mad. But no, every promotion that I've got, I've never gone to a promotion that I've fought on. The staff were rude. They're always really nice. They've always let me know everything. There's never been any trouble with the weights or anything. Like I've been smooth sailings in terms of dealing with promoters and fighting and medicals and getting paid. It's all been really professional the whole way through.
okay. That's no, that's
Yeah.
good because it is my sense sometimes I listen to other fighters telling their story that they really got to go through lots of shit first before they reach the level where they start being taken seriously, and
Ah,
that's when they turn pro.
yeah. Maybe I just felt lucky, but I think if you've got a good coach or manager, if you've got maybe it's just your coach at first, if you've got a good coach with good connections, you really shouldn't be falling into the loop of having these problems. Really, maybe the only other thing that could happen is maybe they said that they had, like, I think I've heard this before, like when it's usually the other team, it's not even the promoters who like lie about records or lie about weight, but it's never the actual, as far as I've known, it's never the
Mm,
actual organization's fault. They're just like the person in the middleman. Do you know what I mean? They're not biased towards any usually.
mm.
I don't know. Maybe I've just been lucky. I've never known it.
What are your future plans? Now, I'm guessing the most obvious one is to get to the UFC. But I mean, are
Yeah.
there any other promoters that would interest you in the UK or around the world? I mean, I can see that you are pretty much a Cage Warriors trademark fighter, so you've been with the company for so
I've had
long.
I've had pretty much all my fights from Cage Warriors except from two, which because they set my last fight as an Ami was to defend the Cage Warriors amateur title, and they said that they'd sign me if I won that as a turned over pro. So I won that, got signed. Then they couldn't get me a fight, so I fought on Almighty, which I think they cleared it. So I fought on Almighty. Then I fought Cage Warriors Academy, then back on Cage Warriors, and then I broke my hand. I was out for a bit and I fought back on Almighty. Then every other fight's been through Cage Warriors there, so I've never really known any other organization in my pros. Maybe that's one of the reasons that I'm not had a problem with an organization. Maybe you could assume, but
Yeah.
no, I've always been in Cage Warriors. I feel like any fighter going through Cage Warriors is looking to go to the UFC. Otherwise, you'd probably pick a different route path. Like you probably would have been trying to get on Bellator at some point, or I don't know. Octagon came in a bit later on, so the PFL. But I'd imagine you'd go to other shows to try and get maybe paid more, but not a path to the UFC as such. But no, I've always enjoyed Cage Warriors. I've always seen it as UK's leading promotion, and they do so well in promoting fighters and building you up as a person. Especially with the Fight Pass as well. So many people are watching that. So no, I've always been looking at that, and now I'm looking to go to UFC. Um, I actually put my name up to go against Kalen Lochran, but I didn't get it. That was coming up. So I was my coach rang me and I was like, yeah, I'd take that fight if he wants it. Like, but nah,
Mm.
there's a couple people wanting that fight. Like, but yeah, no, that is where I want to go. Whether it's Contender Series or UFC, I want that. If I don't get that before September or end of the year, I am looking to defend the title again. Keep active as a champion. You know, you're not just going to sit around waiting for a call. That's never going to come. So, a
Uh-huh.
few people have tried and it hasn't worked. So, but no, I'm happy. I'm happy on Cage Warriors. Um, obviously, anyone on Cage Warriors is looking to go UFC. So, hopefully soon. Hopefully by the end of the year. But no rush. As you say, I'm still young, 27 years old. So, no rush at all, man.
I'm sure the UFC and Dana White are watching you because there's UFC Fight Pass, which is tied into Cage Warriors, and so UFC and Cage Warriors,
Yeah.
the brand almost ties together. So there's no doubt. I'm sure, even though it may not be so obvious on the public social media platforms or the public mainstream media, but I'm sure they know who you are. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that. They
I
know who
think I
you are.
think any title fight they should be watching really. Any Cage Warriors title fights that are going on, you'd assume the UFC take notice, even if they're just watching to see what the person's like. If they're just competing for it and it's vacant, I'd assume they were still watching it. Um, but yeah, it isn't really public put up publicly. But like you say, I imagine they are. Imagine they watch me fight. Just need to get another win together, or maybe a pullout will happen for then. But we'll see. We'll see what will happen.
Speaking of which, well, there's kind of two questions tied into one. You're a bantamweight champion, so you're more or less at the top of that division. But
Yeah.
has competing in any other weight divisions interested you at all? And I mean, any other fighters that you'd like to step into the cage and go head to head with them?
Other weight division. So that's a tricky one for me. So not a particularly big bantamweight. But a very big flyweight. So to cut to flyweight is just something that is like is the to draw the line. Like I have to be so strict and have such an amount of time, and it's just so much that goes into it. Can't really make any. I have to make sure I do everything correct. If anything goes wrong, then the weight cut goes wrong. So the flyweight one's a hard one for me because it's what I did compete at before moving up to bantamweight after a bad cut. So it doesn't appeal to me straight away unless it was for something big, you know. Um, so in terms of finding someone a cager as a flyweight, I'd probably give it a miss. Featherweight, I'm very undersized for featherweight. I've competed at a couple times, but it's usually if we weighed in and both our opponents pulled out, and I fought the next week at featherweight. I think I only fought one actual featherweight, but he'd also fought at bantamweight, so you could assume he wasn't particularly oversized for featherweight either. So, you look at some of those featherweights, mate, and they're massive, and it just like for me, it's like, why would you put yourself in a disadvantage? And again, up or down, it'd probably be due to, well, is it risk versus reward? Is it worth me being at a disadvantage, either me going down or up? Well, what am I getting out of it? And you know, and you weigh that up, don't you? But bantamweight, I feel great. I'm performing good, so as for now, the bantamweight makes sense. But you never know; something might come up in the future that sparks my interest and is worth the risk. You know what I mean?
Speaking of which, there's been no next scheduled fight date or anyone else who more or less wants to come and take that belt
Oh,
off you
I know
that.
what I've got my eyes on. The prize fighter
Ah,
winner. Yeah, I
okay.
did a video. I said I'll fight the prize fighter winner. So is it Shizrat? If I say his name right, the Lion. So he won it. Fair play. I'll fight you. If I don't get offered UFC before September, December, whenever he's ready, I'll fight you. I'll fight for the title. I said it and I'll do it. Simple as, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm sure he did a video. I think he wants that fight too. So obviously he does. Well, where else is he going to go from Cage? He's not going to not fight for the title. So that's a fight that's probably going to happen. September, December, November, whenever. I'm good to go September. So yeah.
Um, this might be let's say it's verging on the side of some negativity, but it's not like throwing shade at you. But um, how do you handle a loss in the past? Do you like did you let it get to you, or did you see it as just extra fire to drive even harder to make sure you win the next fight?
That's a really good question. You don't have to worry about offending me, by the way. That's fine. But it doesn't offend me. It's a really good question that because I imagine different fighters have different answers to that. Like, how many losses did you have as well? I was watching actually an old opponent of mine, Elliot Hoy. He was doing a video the other day. He started doing video. I think he's training in Thailand, but he did a video on this. So he had 7 losses in a row before he turned over pro. And I always thought that to be quite strong-willed. So I've never lost that many times in a row. So I don't know what it's like, but you'd assume someone to go in, lose, go in, lose, go in, lose, and keep going at it, keep going at it, keep going at it, and then start winning. I really like to see it. I think it's amazing. I think that sort of belief in yourself, the confidence, and taking knocks and pulling through and pulling yourself back together, collecting yourself and going back out, losing, collecting yourself. It's just it shows a strong will and determination. I had 2 losses back to back in my pros. It was Kingsley, Crawford Kingsley, and Gerardo Fanny. They were back to back then. And it sucks, man. You lose once and you're like, oh, well, like, it didn't go my way. And then you lose again. And you're like, man, like, I trained really hard for both of those fights and it didn't go my way. Especially like if it was close or whatever and you just didn't get the nod from the judges. It's heartbreaking, man. But you're in a fight sport, what you're going to do. You're going to just stop fighting. Well, like, okay, see you later. But most fighters are gonna, you're a fighter. You're gonna pick yourself up. See what you did wrong. Talk to coaches. Go back out. I think the strongest willed people, the ones who will continuously do that until they start finding a lot of success. Um, a lot for me was having my teammates and coaches around me. So you fight, feel terrible, whatever. Get back to the gym. Usually little discussion about what happened, whatever. A bit awkward sometimes, is what it is. But like you take it on the chin, start talking to your teammates, they start helping you a bit more, whatever. You start adjusting the things that were shown in the fight. I think it's as important as it is, a bit of pill, as people say. It's really important to take losses. If you can take a lot more in your amateurs, it's better because obviously I'm going to pro record, but I imagine taking some losses in your pro records somewhere is important to get to the level that you want to get at if you do want to compete at the highest level. As weird as it sounds, I don't think the whatever records they do get beat. Hopefully you've adjusted where you need to adjust, taking a loss earlier on, and you're at a level where you compete with those guys later on. It's probably my answer to that.
You
A
think?
long one, a long answer.
No, but it was really detailed, and I do like that. Um, so you think that especially in the amateur side of the fighter's career, if they do have a significant number of losses, I don't know, it kind of humbles them for the success they can potentially
Well,
achieve in the
yeah.
professional
So
side.
so what you see is like when you look at amateurs, because they're just starting off and love training, whatever, want to compete, that's cool. Okay. They might get a couple wins. Some of them don't get any losses, which is mad, but it does happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the best thing. Obviously, they don't go out and try and win, but I just feel that means they didn't really get challenged as much as they should have earlier on. But some of them will have a couple fights and then lose a couple, then they'll just quit. And like what we were just talking about before, like how do you deal with losses? And if someone early on loses a couple and feels like, do you know what, this isn't for me, I think it's better you have that earlier on rather than later. You don't want to make it all the way to your pros, training for years, take 2 losses in a row, 3 losses, and quit. You don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully you can find out earlier on, is this for me? Like, can I take the winning and the highs, but also kind of take the lows? And I'm not saying that you don't take lows in you do fight camps, you train all the time. I'm sure you get your ass whooped occasionally. Fighting's a very humble thing. It's humbling.
Mm.
This, you can't lie about how good you are. But yeah, I definitely feel there's a place for losing in the amateurs. Um, Hopefully you get it out of the way before you turn over pro.
Mm. Yeah. No, definitely. I think if you haven't seen your amateur side, as I said before, for me, in my personal opinion, it does kind of teach you to be humble once you turn pro. You do get those wins in.
Yeah, I think it just shows whether you're actually in it as well. I
Yes,
think
yeah.
if someone's to lose once or twice and quit, it just that wasn't for you, man. That wasn't for you. You're not
Yeah.
going to win every single fight. I know it has been done before, but if you look at like a percentage of it, most people lose at some
Mm.
point. Usually to a wrestler. Everybody was used to a wrestler at one point. You know, but yeah, it's interesting. But I'd say that's probably my belief on that.
Last but by no means least, there's two questions. With again with the kind of success that you've achieved, what sort of advice would you give to those who are still coming up the ranks behind you, newer fighters, younger fighters?
Oh right, okay. That's a hard question. That I didn't really. What advice would I give? Just not much, to be honest. Like, just enjoy training. Um, help your teammates out. Try be as close together as you can. Um, I'd say one actually try come up with concepts rather than just training as well. Like more training isn't always better. Sometimes you want to do quality over quantity, as they say. So like say if you train 4 hours in a day, or like what did you do within those 4 hours? Maybe train 2 hours and train better, train more specific, train specific to the people that you're fighting as well. Um, but also come up with concepts. So like reasons for doing stuff, not just how stuff works. Do you know what I mean? So when to engage in grappling, when to disengage in grappling, stuff like that. Other than that, I just enjoy the ride, man.
Mm. Yeah, of course.
It's it's a crazy one. Yeah.
Last but by no means least, any shout outs you want to give? And if you want, if you think it's appropriate, any call outs you want to give as well.
Yeah, so shout outs to my team that's competing on Thursday. I'm gonna be there watching. Um what else there? So shout out to them. My sponsors. Couldn't do it without you guys. So anybody sponsoring me, appreciate it. Think off the top of my head, Feels Pretty Messy Nutrition, um, RD Wright Ltd, the Club Barbers, and Magic Clothing. Any of us are mess. Oh, a law. So shout out to you guys. Appreciate it. Fighters need sponsors. It helps and it goes a long way. Call out to the Lion. I don't think I need to call him out, to be honest. Like, I'm pretty sure that fight's gonna happen. So, looked forward to having that fight in September. Um, any other people in UFC looking for a fight as well? I'll take
Uh,
that. Yeah, but no, yeah, just thanks for everybody. And I'm looking forward to watching my teammates. That's the main one. It's their time this Thursday, so I'm just there to watch and enjoy them get some wins together. That'll make me real happy.
Liam Gittins, Liam Nightmare Gittins, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Guys, guys, if you did enjoy the episode, if you did watch on YouTube, if you watched the entire episode, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. You can also catch the audio versions on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Liam, once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you.